The first of the magical objects that give The Lord of the Rings of Power its name finally made an appearance at the end of Season 1. And in Season 2 of this prequel to J.R.R. Tolkien's fantasy epic, they live up to their promise to transform Middle-earth. When showrunners Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne focus on the duplicity and scheming surrounding the rings or the impact they have on their wearers, the Rings of Power delivers poignant drama that delves into the perils of self-deception and hubris. No matter how bright those scenes shine, they're dulled by tangential plots that do nothing but set up future seasons, especially during the early episodes.
No! This is what Sauron wants!
I felt bound to try and do something special.
You must remain calm when the storm's high.
Sauron may be the Lord of the Rings, but that title and the role of Season 2's main character could also be claimed by the elven smith Lord Celebrimbor of Eregion, played by Charles Edwards. Celebrimbor certainly provides the heart and soul of the season, with all of its best scenes focused on how his desire to save his people drives him down a dark path. Edwards is a veteran Shakespearean actor, and he brings the full weight of tragedy to his character's arc.
I have apprenticed, I have studied, I have reached the very height of my craft.
It takes a while for Charlie Vickers to settle into the role of a fully revealed Sauron, but as the character's plots come into focus, Vickers embraces overt villainy with gusto.
I vow to serve the Lord of Mordor.
His greatest power is telling people what they want to hear.
To the end of my days.
Playing the quintessential abuser who blames his victims for their suffering, while also savagely betraying and discarding anyone who trusts him.
Might be just the way to earn back his respect.
I'm sorry. Who exactly are you?
The elves debate whether they can trust the rings, with Elrond serving as the stubborn voice of caution, but the dwarf king, Durin III, quickly falls under their sway. The stubborn and insular ruler was already deeply flawed. He stripped his own son, Durin IV, of his title because of his desire to help the elves. With old ways of life in Durin's realm failing, the promise of not just salvation but enrichment is too much to pass up. The scenes between father and son in Season 2 are emotionally devastating, as the king offers the prince everything he wants if he'll just go along with a twisted plan to profit off the coming conflict.
I keep wondering, what if you were right?
Durin IV's greatest source of strength is his plucky and funny wife, Disa, who perpetually berates him into doing the right thing while showing deep compassion for how hard it is to find weakness in the man he idolizes.
Its king is deaf to the sorrow of his own son.
Still your axe, Disa!
Unfortunately, the further the plot moves from Sauron's machinations, the thinner and less satisfying it becomes. Assuming the Rings of Power stays faithful to its source material, Isildur will be extremely important to fight against Sauron, but he has nothing to do this season, except fight some random monsters, which admittedly look incredible. He gets a throwaway romance plot with the Southland's refugee Estrid, and goes on an adventure that seems to help Theo get over some of the guilt of helping turn his homeland into Mordor. Unfortunately, all of those threads feel like loose ends from Season 1 being strung along until they finally get somewhere in the Season 2 finale. Things are even worse in Numenor, where the death of the king pits the recently blinded Queen Regent Miriel against her conniving cousin Pharazôn. Anyone interested in royal succession intrigue will be much better served by House of the Dragon. You'll find only the broadest character archetypes here, with Miriel and the pious captain Elendil always taking the higher ground against Pharazôn and his petulant son Keeman. Sure, the costumes and sets on the island nation are absolutely gorgeous, and there's more great creature work here too, but the Numenor plot just feels like it's being dragged along until it's time for Sauron to show up and really wreck things. The Harfoots, Nori Brandyfoot and Poppy Proudfellow, continue to bring plenty of charm to their series, their scenes emphasizing the values of kindness and perseverance that serve as the core of Tolkien's work. As they try to help the wizard known as the Stranger discover his true identity, they bring lightness to an otherwise heavy season. That plot is tainted by the bland evil-doing of the Dark Wizard, who pursues the Stranger with the help of minions who look cool but don't do much. The Dark Wizard himself feels like a knockoff of Christopher Lee's portrayal of Saruman, minus any clear motives or effect on the Rings of Power as a whole. Also adding little here, just as he did to Tolkien's The Fellowship of the Ring, is the enigmatic Tom Bombadil. Rory Kinnear brings a whimsical mystery to the character, but there's a good reason the merry fellow has never made the leap to the big screen. His TV incarnation merely presents the stranger with an obviously false choice between his friends and his destiny. The grand battle scenes, monster design, sets, and richly detailed costumes all make the world of the Rings of Power feel appropriately epic. The show sometimes leans too hard on blowing out the colors on screen, but there are some truly magnificent shots in Season 2. The Rings of Power uses music, which is essential to Tolkien's work, to great effect too. Characters connect by simply singing around a hearth and use songs to evoke magical power. Meanwhile, the dramatic score creates a sense of place with setting-specific themes and builds rich tension into release during the battles. Season 2 of The Lord of the Rings of Power does a great job portraying Sauron's machinations and his impact on those he manipulates, but too much time is spent on disconnected subplots, delivering only mediocre intrigue and thin characters. The moments of powerful pathos and dramatic action delivered by Season 2 are bogged down by scenes focused on places and people who will only become important later in the saga of Middle-earth.
He's Sauron.
For more reviews, check out what we said about Beetlejuice and Alien Romulus. And for everything else, stick with IGN.